This is Jonah Dempsey, your host of the Human Design Deconditioning Guide, and I'm going to talk to you about the shores environment. So we've already looked at the other 5 environments. We've looked at caves, markets, kitchens, mountains, and valleys. And just like how the 6th line profile is kind of outside of the hexagram, and just like the 6th color motivation is actually the lack of all motivation. In some sense, the 6th color environment is outside of environment. It's not really about the environment. It's really about what environment you're outside of. This is shores. So shores, traditionally being divided into natural versus artificial shores. On the natural side, you think of the coastline, being next to a big body of water, preferably one where you can't see what's on the other side. It just stimulates your imagination of what's over there. Or maybe you do see what's on the other side, but it's off in the distance, and you start to wonder, I wonder what it's like to live there, right? Then on the artificial side, because there's natural and artificial shores, for the artificial side, you have things like train tracks, or you have the division of neighborhoods. You have living right where the suburbs becomes the town, or, on a dividing line where this is the road, where everything east of this road is markedly changed. You're on the division lines for neighborhoods. You're on the river. You're on the train tracks, things like that. So, the thing to realize, though, is that if you're shores, in some ways shores is the easiest environment to find because there's so many of them, but it's not always easy to know what you're supposed to be on the other side of, okay? Because it's about being stimulated from what you're outside of. Say the idea of New York City is really stimulating to you. That idea of New York City is something that, you imagine it fills you with excitement and all of this. Well, you don't want to live in New York if you're shores, but you could live outside of New York, particularly where you can look and see New York. Maybe you're in Jersey City or something, and you're seeing the New York skyline. And every time you look at it, you think about that city, you think about what it's like there, and so on. So, it's about being stimulated from being outside. It's like living on an island, and then you think about the mainland. You're stimulated by the mainland. You have friends or family back on the mainland. Symbolically, the mainland is all of these things that kind of fill you. You get filled. It's interesting because you're filled by the absence in some way. Now, this is Ra Uru Hu's environment. Ra, who is the messenger of human design, and he was lucky to live near big bodies of water through much of his life, and then eventually he went to Ibiza, which was a perfect shore for him. In fact, he used to wade out into the ocean. See, he was natural shores, left variable. So he would wade out into the actual ocean where it was shallow, and there were these rocks, and there was a rock that was kind of like a chair, and he could get up on this rock and sit on it and have the water on all 4 sides of him and have this 270 degree view of just the ocean. That is an ideal environment for shores. That's a power place for shores. Just right there, right on the edge. Right in the edge. And it's about the vastness and the imagination of what's on the other side. Now, he also lived in Taos for 7 years. Taos, New Mexico. Now, some people have said that deserts can be like the shores. I know the joke around here, I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and the joke here is that it's all beach and no ocean, just all that sand. But, that didn't really work for him. And so it's interesting because you might think, oh, he was in a shore environment being on the desert like that. I've been to Taos, and there's vast, vast plains, oceans of sand. Well, not really sand at that point. You got to go to southern New Mexico for that, white sands or something. But at least oceans of plains, of sagebrush, and dirt and dust. But it didn't really work for him. He had a really hard time there. He talks about all the difficulty he ran into in Taos because he wasn't in his correct environment. So, while it is true that you can find any environmental frequency in any location, it's not, it's not always the easiest. Some places it's much easier. If you're in Ibiza, you just walk to the water and, you're on this island, so you're split off from the mainland and you're looking out over the water. That is the shores. You're on the outside looking in. This is the sixth line theme. The outside looking in. Right? So it's much easier to find that correct environment there. And now in Taos, I don't really know where the outside looking in would be. I mean, I guess you're also on the inside of something else looking out. That's the other theme. Looking, you're in the island and you're looking out over the vast ocean. But either way, it's about boundaries, it's about thresholds, it's those liminal places. This is shores. I have a friend who's shores who said they like to sleep in the door jamb between two rooms, like if they're staying at somebody's house. Doesn't sound too comfortable to me, but I'm not shores. I have another friend who's artificial shores, and he lives in Seattle, but he lives right on the edge of 17 acres of nature preserve. And he's a nature preservationist, so he has access to it. So he's right in the city, and he's only a 15-minute walk down to the, main area of Ballard, for instance. But he's at the end of a dead-end road, right on the edge of this nature preserve. So he's where the houses begin. And on the other side is all just nature. So that's a good example of an artificial shore environment. It doesn't have to be water. Although there is something about water, particularly for natural shores, that really works. You're up against the water, it's as far as you can go, and then you imagine what's on the other side. All right. Thanks for watching.